You ever notice how neighborhoods peak and fade? Like they have their moment and then everyone just moves on? Well, yeah, South Tampa never got that memo. This place has been Tampa's gold standard for the last century, and somehow it's still the one everyone's chasing. That's wild, right? Because usually when a city blows up like Tampa has, the it neighborhood changes every 5 years. But here, Bayshore is still packed at sunrise. Hyde Park's still buzzing every weekend, and those homes along the bay, still the ones people dream about. And if you're sitting there wondering, okay, well, what's the secret? What makes South Tampa untouchable? Stick around, because once you see the mix of history, the lifestyle, and straight up luxury that keeps this place on top, you'll get why no one's been able to knock it off the throne. All right, let's back it up for a second, because before we get lost in the waterfront views and the price tags, we've got to get what makes South Tampa, well, South Tampa. It's not just about a pin on a map, it's about a peninsula that's got a pulse. This is the stretch of land that runs south from Kennedy Boulevard, wrapped between Hillsborough Bay and Tampa Bay like it's Tampa's front row seat to the water. You've got Hyde Park and Palmacia showing off those oak-lined streets and early 1900s architecture. You got Davis Island, where you can cruise golf carts past waterfront mansions with million-dollar views. And down towards the base, that's Ballast Point and Bayshore Beautiful, where the vibe shifts from polished to peaceful. Sunset docks, neighborhood parks, and that "this is why I live in Florida" feeling. Every pocket here tells its own story, and together they form something no other part of Tampa can recreate. Old school charm that meets modern ambition. It's where century-old homes sit next to sleek new builds, and nobody blinks, because that's just South Tampa. It's timeless. Maybe it's never stuck in time, and maybe that's the real secret. South Tampa doesn't chase trends, it sets them. It's the kind of place where heritage is the brand, and somehow every new generation just adds another layer to the story. So yeah, people see luxury homes and the waterfronts and they think, okay, money. But the truth? The magic goes deeper than that, because what really makes South Tampa stand out isn't just what's built here, it's how it feels to live here. The rhythm, the lifestyle, the community that somehow makes $1 million zip code feel like a small town. And that's where we're headed next, the lifestyle, the day-to-day heartbeat that turns this stretch of South Tampa into a place people never want to leave. But this is a great time to just take a quick pause before we roll into the lifestyle, because if you're thinking about moving here from out of state or even just across town and want to explore your options, I want you to reach out, and we want to be your local Tampa real estate team of choice. Go ahead, grab our contact info. It's right there on the screen and down in the description below. So here's the thing about South Tampa. People don't just live here, they live here. You feel it the second your tires hit Bayshore Boulevard. The air shifts, the energy changes, and suddenly you're surrounded by runners, cyclists, dog walkers, and that $1 million skyline bouncing off the bay like a postcard that just never gets old. Every day here starts with a view, whether it's that pink sunrise hitting the water or that glow bouncing off the palm trees in Hyde Park. It's not showy, it's effortless. This is one of those rare places where you can wear flip-flops to brunch and still be sitting next to someone who just closed a 7-figure deal over coffee at Buddy Brew. And that's what makes South Tampa addictive. It's luxury without the attitude. You can roll out of your historic bungalow, grab a smoothie at Storm, hit up camp for a quick sweat, and finish your morning walking through Hyde Park Village, where high-end shopping and local charm just somehow coexist perfectly. It's that big city meets small town collision, and it works because everyone here plays the same game. Live well, stay active, keep it local. By the time lunch rolls around, you've got options for days. Maybe it's Italian at Olivia, a casual lunch at Bar Taco, or seafood with a view at Salt Shack. Evenings, that's when the magic hits a different gear. Dinner at Haven with a craft cocktail, or maybe because you booked your reservations 8+ weeks ago, you finally get your perfect Burns night. And that's the secret ingredient in South Tampa. It's not just where you live, it's how you live. You get that mix of convenience and calm, energy and ease. You can be downtown in 10 minutes or just lost in the quiet of your own tree-lined street in 2. That balance, it's priceless. It's why people relocating from across the country, from Miami, from Chicago, from New York, they end up right here because it feels like everything they were chasing. Sunshine, walkability, community, and a lifestyle that actually delivers on the Florida dream. Ask any local, and they'll tell you the same thing. Once you move to South Tampa, you don't upgrade, you plant roots. One of my clients moved down from Chicago thinking they'd rent for a year. 6 months later, they were house hunting because they couldn't imagine leaving the Bayshore mornings and Hyde Park coffee runs. But here's the twist. When a place feels this good, everybody else wants in too. And that's where things get interesting, because while South Tampa has held the crown for decades, new neighborhoods are always trying to take the throne. So the real question becomes, why hasn't anyone pulled it off yet? Well, why don't we check out the competition? So here's the wild thing about Tampa right now. The city is in full-blown glow-up mode. Everywhere you look, cranes, condos, new restaurants, new neighborhoods, the skyline keeps swapping out outfits like it's got somewhere to be. Midtown, Water Street, West Chase, I mean, heck, even Ybor, they're all making noise, and honestly, they're making moves that actually turn heads. But let's be real. While they're out there trying to become the next it spot, South Tampa's sitting back like, hey, that's cute, hold my beer. Because here's the truth. You can't copy culture. You can build towers, you can open rooftop bars, you can drop a Whole Foods every 10 blocks if you really wanted to, but you can't fake roots. And that's where South Tampa wins every single time. This isn't some master plan overnight sensation. This is decades of families, local businesses, and generations who've built something that feels earned. The barista who knows your order, that same oak tree in Beach Park where your parents probably took prom pics. That's the kind of stuff no blueprint can replicate. Water Street, it feels like the future of Tampa, but it's all new money and it's still kind of finding its soul. Midtown's slick and walkable, but it's built for moments, not memories. Meanwhile, South Tampa, it just keeps being South Tampa. Walkability, nailed it decades ago. Prestige comes with a zip code, and community, you can feel it at every block party, Little League game, or Saturday morning on Bayshore when half the city seems to show up just to move. It's not a trend, it's tradition. And that's something you can't outbuild, outbrand, or outmarket. But here's what the data never shows: trust. When an area's been holding its value since day one, people trust it. Investors, families, builders, they know what they're buying into. That stability, it's gold, because trends come and go, but heritage compounds. And sure, new neighborhoods are shining right now, but shine fades, legacy lasts. That's why when the rest of Tampa keeps reinventing itself, South Tampa just keeps refining itself. It's fast fashion versus timeless style. Both can look good, but only one is gonna look good 10 years later. And speaking of timeless, that's what defines South Tampa's edge. Character just merges with class. So next, let's dig into the real heartbeat of this whole story, the luxury factor. Because here, luxury isn't just a price tag, it's an attitude. So here's a stat that'll really mess with your head. The average South Tampa home now costs over $1.1 million, and buyers are still lining up for bidding wars. But here's the wilder part. It's not because of square footage or quartz countertops. It's because luxury here hits different. See, South Tampa isn't gated community luxury. It's living, breathing, every day on display luxury. You feel it the second your tires hit Bayshore, or you roll past a 1920s Mediterranean revival sitting shoulder to shoulder with a glass and steel masterpiece. It shouldn't make sense, but somehow it does. That's the secret. Old soul meets new ambition. Walk one block and you're time traveling. Hyde Park bungalows with creaky floors that have seen generations. Palmacia estates hiding under oak canopies, and Colbreth Isles, sleek, waterfront, movie scene sunsets. Every corner whispers money, but it's the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need to brag because, well, history already did the talking. And that's what separates South Tampa from the imitators. While the rest of Florida's throwing up subdivisions that all look the same, this area's out here aging like fine bourbon, smooth, warm, and really only better with time, because around here, luxury isn't loud, it's earned. Generation after generation, house by house, detail by detail, and that's what makes South Tampa untouchable. You can build new, but you can't build this. I've always said, while Tampa evolves, it's important to keep the fabric that made Tampa what it is intact, and South Tampa, it's doing just that. Everywhere you look in the city, you can feel that pulse, hammers just echoing down quiet streets, new glass where there used to be aging stucco, the buzz of progress that somehow still feels personal. Here's the thing, in most cities, development feels like an invasion. Big money just moves in, old charm gets wiped out, and suddenly everything looks like the same beige stucco. But here, it's different. Change doesn't erase the past, it renovates it. This isn't a wave of outsiders bulldozing history. It's a new generation of locals, builders, and dreamers updating what already works. You'll see it everywhere. A 1950s bungalow rebuilt smarter. A mom and pop strip turned boutique now. A flood zone redesigned with brains instead of band-aids. There's this rare balance happening here. Progress without pretension. You've got a new generation of builders and architects who get it. They're not trying to turn South Tampa into something else. They're reshaping the next chapter of what it already is. So take Bayshore Boulevard, for example. New luxury condos rising, but always built around that iconic view. The skyline evolves, but the soul, it stays. Or Hyde Park Village, which could have easily gone corporate, but instead just doubled down on local boutiques, greenery, and walkability, proving that modernization doesn't have to be homogenization. And look, not everyone loves change, that's real. Some longtime residents, they just wish the cranes would chill for a minute, but others see the growth as a kind of a rebirth, a passing of the torch to a new wave of homeowners, entrepreneurs, and creatives who want to invest in keeping South Tampa relevant without losing its texture. Which brings us to the real story beneath the skyline. Because before all the teardowns and rebuilds, before the cranes and the condos, there was a foundation, a story of how South Tampa became the standard everyone else is trying to meet. So you can't really get South Tampa until you understand what came before all these $1 million zip codes and designer dogs walking down Bayshore. This whole area was just swamp, sawgrass, and mosquito country. No skyline, no waterfront condos, no traffic on Dale Mabry, just wild land and a few dreamers who saw something no one else did. Fast forward a century and that gamble turned into one of Florida's most valuable pieces of real estate. Not because of luck, but because of legacy. See, South Tampa wasn't built in a boom, it was built in layers. By the people who laid the bricks, carved the streets, and put heart into every block long before cranes ever showed up. Guys like Thomas Palmer, who carved Palmacia out of the dirt in 1903 and gave it its Spanish name, Heavenly Palm. Or Henry Plant, whose railroads and hotels in the late 1800s made Tampa more than a dot on a map. He gave it connection, and from that, South Tampa got momentum. By the 1900s, neighborhoods like Hyde Park and Bayshore started to rise. Craftsman homes, Mediterranean revivals, oak-lined streets, architecture that said, we're here to stay. These weren't just houses, they were statements of pride, permanence, and possibility. And then came the Bayshore Boulevard revolution. Picture this, 1890s, and someone decided to line the waterfront with the world's longest continuous sidewalk. That one decision didn't just create a place to walk, it created an identity. It said, this is Tampa's front porch. And a century later, that same stretch of concrete still defines the city's image. But it wasn't all smooth sailing, literally. There were storms, there were floods, boom and bust cycles, and rebuilds. Yet somehow, South Tampa kept getting better. Every generation added its own chapter, from post-war families making roots to the modern wave of professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives who fell in love with that blend of history and high life. That's what separates South Tampa from every other neighborhood trying to just bottle up the vibe. You can't buy this, you can't master plan it, you can't code it into an HOA. It's earned over a century of grit, growth, and stubborn pride. That's why when you walk down Bayshore at sunset or drive under the canopies in Palmacia, it just hits different. You're not just seeing real estate, you're seeing Tampa's standard for how a neighborhood should feel. Now, here's a twist. It's not all perfect, because for everything people love about South Tampa, there's another side of the story, the one locals know all too well. First up, the cost. South Tampa isn't cheap, not even close. Between home prices, insurance, property taxes, and the occasional contractor who thinks he's building for NASA, you feel it. But here's the thing, when people say it's expensive, the locals, they just kind of smile, because to them, they're not just paying for a house, they're investing in a way of life. The vibe, the energy, the proximity to everything, that's what the price tag really covers. Then there's the traffic. We all know it. Dale Mabry at 5 p.m., yeah, you're not moving fast, you're moving Tampa slow. School pickup lines, it's just brutal. Restaurant rush hour, it's survival of the fittest, but again, people don't leave, because the trade-off is this. You might crawl a little, but you're crawling through paradise. And then, Mother Nature speaks up. Afternoon storms that roll in like clockwork, that sticky humidity that makes you question your life choices in July, and yes, those elevation maps that make insurance adjusters twitch. But here's the truth nobody tells you. The people who live here, they don't just accept it, they adapt. Raised foundations, smart landscaping, better drainage. South Tampa adapts as needed. And maybe the most overlooked trade-off is change. Because South Tampa is evolving fast, and that comes with growing pains. Old homes coming down, new builds going up, streets looking different almost every year. Some people miss the way it was. Others, they're excited for what's next. But everyone, I mean everyone, agrees that what makes South Tampa special is how it keeps moving forward without losing its soul. That's the magic. People stay because the good outweighs the grind, because every morning jog along Bayshore, that after-work drink in Hyde Park, every sunset over the bay reminds you exactly why you're here. It's the kind of place where the lifestyle pays you back, not only in real appreciation, but in moments. That's something no flood map, traffic jam, or property tax bill can compete with. South Tampa, isn't perfect, but that's exactly why it works. It's real, it's layered, it's a mix of history, hustle, and heart all packed into one waterfront stretch that somehow captures everything people love about Tampa. From the Gasparilla parades to the morning runs, this area has written the city's story, and it's still the one everyone else measures up to. If you're relocating, investing, or just dreaming about living where Tampa's energy truly lives, my real estate team helps families and professionals find their perfect fit here every week. This isn't just a market, it's a mindset. So if that vibe speaks to you, reach out. All my info's below, and my team and I would love to help you make South Tampa your next chapter. And for those of you that are still exploring Tampa and really not sure where you might land, I queued up a few playlists right here where I'll take you through Tampa's best neighborhoods, the lifestyle breakdown, and hidden gems you probably didn't even know existed. Trust me, if you're serious about living the Tampa life, this is where it all starts coming together. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Woo!